Forgotten people.
Oh freedom, oh freedom, oh freedom, oh freedom, oh freedom, oh freedom. Oh yes I know, 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 oh yes I know.
Timișoara, December 1989. The first shots are fired in a revolution that would end decades of ruthless dictatorship in Romania. A turning point for a nation which had been largely ignored by the world. The uprising focused attention on a country calling out for help. As the horrors of hospitals and orphanages were revealed, many felt the need to respond. Soon, tons of food, blankets and clothing were being sent out by well-wishers. But all too often, the aid was simply swallowed up by Romania's voracious black market.
Oh Jesus, oh Jesus, oh Jesus.
Many lessons have now been learned. Projects like Light to Romania, set up by a group of Christians from Frinton, Essex, have been forging friendships in battle-scarred Timișoara and beyond in a bid to ensure the aid gets to the people who really need it.
I think the immediate answer to the problems of the country is to channel aid through the Christian churches, because that way we know that it's getting to most of the people. It's getting to the orphanages, it's getting to the hospitals, it's getting to the places where we want it to go. There's still a risk of it going on to the black market, but I think through the churches, it's likely to reach its destination.
Light to Romania was formed to bring practical and spiritual support to a country where the church had been persecuted more than anywhere else in the Eastern Bloc.
It's really lovely to be here with you and to be able to share this beautiful day with you.
On its fourth mission to Romania in April, the Frinton group went armed with Christian literature, which was eagerly snapped up to be studied, absorbed and treasured.
How much you paying this for?
Under Ceausescu, Bibles were often seized and recycled as toilet paper, but now they can be freely distributed. Back in Frinton, Light to Romania packed thousands of Bibles, New Testaments and Christian pamphlets to take on the trip.
No, we would never go out with just literature. We feel that you can't give literature to people who are walking around with empty stomachs and living in hovels. But we think that if we can take them something for their stomachs and for their comfort now, and also take literature, that is an ideal mix for both now and for the future.
Huge amounts of clothing, food and supplies were collected as Light to Romania captured the imagination of the people of Frinton.
Down there with the shoes.
The man behind the project is the owner of a furniture store in the town, Platt. Piloting his own plane, he flies people on Christian missions around Europe. And it was after a visit to Romania last year that he felt compelled to spur Frinton into action.
God has given me the ability through the business to be able to help others. He's given me the ability to be able to have an aeroplane, to fly around the world wherever I'm needed. I think during 1990 I was in some 25 different countries, helping wherever it was needed. And one of the particular things that came up was the Romanian situation. I immediately identified, once I got out there, with the needs of the Romanian people and my business. I could see clearly how, through the business contacts I have, that I will be able to go to those suppliers that we do a lot of business with and say, look, this is the situation. We've got to help our brothers and sisters in Romania. And they've responded so well, it's been incredible.
response to Stan Platt's pleas was remarkable. 12 months ago, the town raised almost £10,000 in 3 weeks to help fund the first mission to Romania. Congregations at churches throughout the town have rallied to the cause in response to the feedback from subsequent trips, with Frinton Free Church and the Gospel Chapel leading the way.
Love and care. There's none over there. Children in homes neglected and sad. None of them have a mum or a dad. Rows and rows of tiny faces. Most of them will see no other places. Not one of them a cuddle, never stepped in a puddle. The tears keep on falling, the conditions appalling. Medicine in short supply. Some of the children eventually die. For those who remain, many in pain, will be hungry and weary, never cheery. Help is needed from us who are wealthy to make those children happy and healthy.
So across the channel to Coxey, right, familiar route, that's right. Crossed south of Brussels, must make sure we miss that air traffic control zone there. On to Liège, right, down to Luxembourg, and then it's straight across to Würzburg.
Stan Platt's co-pilot for the latest trip is David Beer, the minister at Frinton Free Church. Several weeks before takeoff, they have to plot their route and apply for all the necessary permissions, which become harder to get as you head further east.
Fringe certain territory we may be fired on without warning.
Definitely
So
missing that one.
we need to check the note ends.
And this is where we've got a choice. Either we go over the mountains...
A refuelling stop must be arranged before reaching Romania, where aviation gas is both contaminated and sold at hugely inflated prices. Light to Romania's largest ever convoy is escorted out of Frinton. There are 7 lorries, a coach and 45 people, most paying £200 for the trip. A second group leaves Ipswich Airport 36 hours later. Stan Platt's plane carries an advance party and more aid parcels. The single-engined Piper Saratoga flies from Ipswich to Budapest non-stop, cruising at about 170 miles an hour. Ipswich to Romania takes 8 hours by Stan Air. The coach party has 3 days to contemplate the trip.
We shall stand with our feet on the Lord. It's obvious that the Lord really wants me to go, and now I'm praying that He'll prepare me for what I'm going to encounter. I'm very excited about going, but I'm also very scared about going. I've heard an awful lot from people that have been out there, and they have great stories to tell, some not so great, with the poverty that they've seen. And I'm just really thrilled to be able to go out and to help, but as I say, I am scared too as to what I will see. I think it will have a tremendous impact on my life.
One of the first ports of call for the Frinton party certainly has an impact. The so-called Hospital for the Chronically Sick in Batrini, Transylvania, is one of many institutions described by the Romanians as a home for the irrecuperable. Almost all the patients are kept in bed all the time, some actually tied down. Flowers and tablecloths had been put out for the benefit of the visitors, but nothing could disguise the stench or the overpowering sense of despair.
Don't worry, I've been the same as you. Yeah. Yes, I have. Been the same.
I wouldn't believe what I've seen today. Just unbelievable. I would like to think there's something we could do the Lord will provide. The Lord will provide for these people. It's going to take time, but the Lord will provide. Every morning we've had prayer and I burst into tears. I don't know why. So I know how that man felt. And I was trying to tell him, do not cry. I've cried. And I've cried every day in prayer. And when I go back, I should be a different man than when I came out.
Some of the patients are clearly mentally handicapped. Others seem condemned to life in an institution simply because they have nowhere else to go. Many were brought up in orphanages and have apparently become completely institutionalized.
You will see that you don't have just old people in this institution. Actually, you have also fairly young people. You'll see here people that are probably 20, 25 years old. Some of them came when they were 18 years old here, and they are likely to stay in this institution unless conditions will change or something quite dramatic will happen. They are likely to stay here till all their lives. So once they get in, they'll probably won't get out till they die.
I felt the love of Jesus coming through me to them, and there was one particular old lady who's a Christian, and I was drawn to her. I can't explain it, it's just supernatural. It is too little. There's so much to do, and we're just a drop in the ocean. Jesus said we are his hands and his feet, so we've just got to keep on doing it. I mean, it can't stop now. It's got to carry on.
Right, I've adjusted the frame. This will go around the gentleman's ears now.
Brinton optician Jim Seymour went to Romania armed with 200 pairs of unwanted spectacles. He dispensed some in the home for irrecuperables, visited a nearby eye hospital, and stayed on after the rest of the party had returned to England to assess what specific aid could be brought out on future trips. While some of the lorries headed off across Romania to places like Bucharest and Moldavia, the main party was based in Cluj, about 100 miles from the Hungarian border. The bulk of the aid was unloaded into a warehouse before distribution through the local Baptist church. Are you happy that it's going to be safe here, sir?
Yes, very happy. It's on the top floor. We're filling it up by lifts, and it's going to be really safe, no problem. Locked up with guards on it, and there's some Christians that have organised it for us, so I'm quite happy.
The convoy carried over 100 tons of supplies, from tools to toys and wheelchairs to washing machines.
Getting the aid together is the easy bit. Transporting it to Romania is comparatively easy. Distributing it is difficult. That's why it needs to be distributed through the churches. But even then, what we give is but a drop in the ocean. There's still a long way to go, but they are enthusiastic for every little bit of help that they can get.
Well done.
The aid that's coming from Brinton is valuable because we are supplying things which people have asked for. Clothes, certain items of clothing, certain items of food, books, literature. It's specific aid which we are providing, rather than just bringing in lorry loads of anything and then distributing it haphazardly throughout the towns and villages.
In many ways, life has become no easier for Romanians since the revolution. Average salaries of £30 a month have not risen to match 500% price rises imposed by the government overnight. Food shops rarely have food or customers, but queues build fast when there is something to buy.
I think now the big problem is basic, food. It's because the prices get so higher and the salaries are so small. I mean, the people cannot afford the money to buy food. So you've seen that, many of people are begging on the street and, begging for food. And I think also for the hospital, it's a big need. It's awful. I think you've seen what's happening there. And they don't have basic things like, cotton, wool cotton and, syringes, needles, and I mean basic things for, for the surgeries.
An operating theatre in Cluj Orthopaedic Hospital. Hygiene and basic sterilisation facilities are minimal. Basic equipment is simply not available. Heart monitoring is just a nurse's finger on the patient's pulse. Intravenous drips hang on an old hat stand. Typically in Romania, broken light bulbs could not be replaced. The Frinton party have come with medical supplies donated by local hospitals, nurses and chemists, and a blank shopping list.
In the intensive care unit, you have all the equipment?
No.
No? Right, so what equipment are you short on?
We need electrocardiograph, electrocardiography, yes.
ECG?
Yes. We need also monitor, cardiac monitor.
Cardiac monitor,
yes. Visual for the operating rooms.
Yeah.
Yes.
Light to Romania first made contact with the hospital last year when they brought out an unwanted operating table from Tendring Hospital in Essex. This time there was anaesthetic equipment, drugs and bandages. Some aid from other countries has also found its way to the hospital, but facilities are still basic in the extreme. Nurses are rarely seen in the cramped wards. The hospital's blind physiotherapist does his best to encourage the patient's physical recovery, but there's absolutely nothing to stimulate their minds. Again, copies of the scriptures are gratefully accepted.
The Bible is really a document of freedom, and that's why it was feared so much during the old regime. And I think as people read the Bible, as they come together into community in the churches, there's a feeling of hope rises within them, and they're more motivated. Hello. Can I give you a copy of the Romanian Bible?
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. God bless you.
Down in the X-ray department, there's one machine which is 40 years old. Spare parts are non-existent. The surgeons face almost overwhelming problems.
I found here a very, very old hospital with very old equipment and very few equipment. I was very glad that I found here a very good staff, some young surgeons specialized in orthopedic surgery, very good, but without equipment it's very difficult to do a very good work.
More than anything else, it was the orphanages which sparked a massive response to the plight of Romania. Hundreds of children have now been adopted by families in the West, but the Frinton group is working with local churches to encourage the Romanians to take on the youngsters themselves.
The church has the opportunity in Romania of helping the children in the orphanages, for example, without those children being taken out of the country. One of the temptations is for foreigners to want to adopt Romanian children. It's really better, some believe, if those children remain in their own country within Romanian families. And the church can help to do that. The church can help provide families where the children can come and stay. And so it is through the churches that there is hope for those children in those orphanages to be able to stay in Romania, grow up in Romania, grow up within a family in Romania, and know true love and care through the community of the church.
When a party from Frinton first visited this orphanage last Christmas, it looked like so many of those seen on television. Since then, nearly half the children have been adopted or taken back by their parents, and now there's room to play with the toys brought out from Frinton. After a week in Romania, Stan Platt again takes to the skies. His flight home has become a mercy mission, following an appeal from the Dutch-based Christian Care Group. They've asked him to collect a little girl from the other side of Romania and bring her to Holland for hospital treatment. 5-year-old Alina Ursaci and her family live in Iași, near the Russian border. She's already had an operation in Romania, and now her future rests on life-saving open heart surgery in Rotterdam.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
Meanwhile, at the Hungarian border, most of the party wait to set off on the long journey home, leaving a few people to stay on for a further week in Romania. Now there's time to reflect on the lessons learned during the trip and the best way forward for the Frinton project.
I think that, if nothing else, we'll be able to take back new information about what we've learned. It's been great to see the work that has already been done in orphanages, and although we haven't seen so much poverty this time, it's been good to see the fruits of other people's labour.
We could do more. It's an ongoing thing. You just have to trust in the Lord as to what you bring over is going to go to the right places. We've already seen people selling things off on the black market, and it's sad to think that things that you'll bring over will go out onto the black market. But then what is your option? Just to sit at home and do nothing is twice as bad, really.
God is so good. God is so good. God is so good. He's so good to me. I praise His name. I praise His name.
Karen Hamilton is making her second visit to this orphanage and school outside Timișoara. She and a group of colleagues from Frinton Gospel Chapel will stay on to distribute much of the aid brought out by Light to Romania. As conditions in the country gradually improve, she finds it hard to predict the way forward for the project.
I don't know what the future holds. It's always a step of faith, and basically we take each day at a time, and we don't know where it will go from here. Maybe it will continue. Maybe it's like a bit of a relay race. We started off with the baton in our hands, and we've done a round, and we've passed the baton on. But the thing has grown so huge that it's not just like passing one baton on. We've passed on dozens, and other people are taking that baton and going on. So who knows where it will end.
With 1,000 new churches now under construction across Romania, the groundswell of religious feeling might well be the key to the country's future. Whatever that future holds, the needs of Romania have helped forge new links between the people and the churches of Frinton-on-Sea.
After 2 months and a series of operations in Rotterdam, Alina returned to Romania well on her way to a full recovery. And if you'd like further information on the charity Light to Romania, you can contact them at this address, Harwoods of Essex, 112 Connaught Avenue, Essex, CO13 9AA. That's Light to Romania, Harwoods of Essex, 112 Connaught Avenue, Essex, CO13 9AA.